Welcome to the Bucket Bros. Hopefully you can hear me, and hopefully our internet connection is working as I am here live at the Now Arena. It is post-game after the Indiana Mad Ants pull off the victory over the Windy City Bulls, 114-97. I have foregone my press conference duties to talk to Bobby here post-game. How are you doing, Bobby? Happy birthday.
Thank you. I had a birthday recently, although I can't really remember. It's all been a blur since I'm now a parent of two. Oh, thank you. No, I mean, I think a mark of having a lot of good people in your life is being reminded every year just that you're 1 year closer to that colonoscopy. So, I appreciate that.
They do it now in a blood test. That's what my doctor told me last time. There's no gloves. It's just a blood test now.
I think you need to change doctors. No,
it's the VA. I can't change.
No, I mean, I'll leave it to them. I'll keep my thoughts to myself.
Let's keep your medical license to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here on a back-to-back. The Bulls played last night against the Maine Celtics and got blown out in that game. They made a lot of changes. Obviously, we don't usually give you up-to-the-minute Windy City Bulls stats, but they traded their guard Alex Schumacher for a 2025 international pick. So he was kind of the point guard that kind of led this team, and they really haven't found kind of that floor general yet, and just can't get over the hump here and get some consistent offense going in the second half when they need it. So that is your G League Insider update here on the Windy City Bulls. We've got some NBA talk to talk about. I think where we left off last time, the Denver Nuggets,
speaking of back-to-backs.
Yes. So the Denver Nuggets and Oklahoma City had a back-to-back. What were your takeaways from those two games and the Nuggets' subsequent loss last night to my good old Timberwolves, even though I could not catch that game because of ESPN, and me and Bobby have had our discussions about ESPN. So the Nuggets, what are your thoughts so far? Jokic, SGA, that MVP battle. Have your thoughts changed?
Well, I mean, you all have know that I've been on Team Jokic essentially for a little bit now. Again, and I'll say this at the end of this year too. There's never been an undeserving MVP winner. It is kind of crazy that we're watching a race between two guys doing this well in their own respects. I feel like the fact that we're debating it to such an extreme degree of like, well, this guy's having an unbelievable season for this reason, and this guy's having a historic season for this reason. How do you not pick him? The fact that we get to do that, I think, is a privilege. It just means that basketball is really, really good right now. And there's, individually, any other year, you could plop these guys, and there's a 90% chance plus that they would win the MVP that year. And so the fact that they're going essentially head to head, if you will, it just makes for a good NBA season. I'm sure you heard Jokic during one of his interview questions, actually given SGA his props while sort of like subtly making his case for his ballot as well. So very slick, very nice. But back to back between the Nuggets and the Thunder. If you were looking for any clarity from those two games of who to vote for, certainly didn't help there, because it sort of felt like SGA made a statement game, if you will, on the first one, but then Jokic bounced right back. You could tell that he was taking it a little bit personally. He was coming out with some fire. I think in the second game early on, Hartenstein was starting to get in his ear a little bit. Feeling good about himself, and Joker was having none of that. You started seeing him bark back, and then all of a sudden he started scoring, and he essentially didn't stop for the rest of the night. I will say that a big theme I'm seeing, and I feel like teams are doing this a little bit more and more as the competition's getting higher, of how teams are trying to play Jokic, because it's tough. The guy has offensively, he's like at every single tool.
the one thing I went and I looked at the box score against the Timberwolves, and I think he only had 4 assists, and I was shocked at that fact. And I think only like 8 rebounds. To me, it's one of those I need to go back and probably watch the highlights tonight between F1 practice and just to see how they were able to slow him down because obviously. And I think right now the standings show that if they got that 6 seed, it'd be a 3-6 Nuggets Wolves kind of matchup. So, like I've said all season, that 6 seed is the ceiling, and if they get there, I think the Nuggets are a decent matchup to hopefully like at least do something. I know the playoffs are a different animal, but having beaten them last year, having that confidence, kind of not saying handling them, but at least knowing how to contain him at least a little bit better this season. It gives me hope that that might be something to look forward to that matchup in the playoffs. But and so that's at least why the Timberwolves coming on a little as of late. But yeah, I think that SGA game was definitely a statement game. Granted, we were going back and forth just about how both teams couldn't miss. Like it was a great game to watch, and if you missed it, please go back and rewatch it. That was a efficient and just dynamic game the way that was played out with a lot of points, a lot of scoring, a lot of ball movement. It's the way basketball should be played, and it was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I did certainly. If you're gonna get hooked on basketball, watch that game. I feel like there's been like a few like all season classics that we've had this year, and that was definitely one of them. Especially the back to back portion of it as well, sort of made for a little bit extra entertainment. But no, you said it. I mean, yeah, it seemed like these guys couldn't miss, which aesthetically is very pleasing. But one thing that you kind of they made it look so easy. That one thing that you kind of take for granted is how well both these teams were generating shots for their guys. It's this NBA gets knocked a lot for seeming to shoot too many threes, whatever that means. But a big part of that is actually getting a good look from a good shooter. It's not just like if you have the ball, you're going to be shooting it. So and both teams do that very well in their own respect. I agree with you that if that 3-6 really ends up being Denver, Minnesota, or in some other combination, they end up playing each other in the playoffs. Even if Minnesota has to scrape their way, well, actually, it would have to be 1 win to get the 7 seed. If Denver ends up in the 2 seed, I think that that sort of like that matchup looming for Denver is actually a little bit scary for them. You said it yourself that Minnesota beat Denver last year, and in dramatic fashion in 7 games as well, and the team is built a little bit different this year, but
a little,
just a little. But I feel like one thing that they're doing that OKC was doing similarly is just really shutting down the passing lanes for Joker, and we know that OKC is amazing at that, right? Leading the league in steals and like pass deflections. So. But yeah, I mean, you're seeing the same effort from Minnesota, who seems to be sort of coming into their own. Now, I mean, they're on a 6-game.
Yeah, I got excited because I was going to be like, they're the hottest team in the league right now, and I was like, oh wait, Cleveland's won 15 straight. Never mind. I'll keep my mouth shut.
That was funny. I think it was like 2 episodes ago. You kind of like briefly got me with like, what's going on out east, and I started to mention like the Knicks, and I didn't even mention the fact that at that point Cleveland, I believe, won their like 13th straight that night. So shame on me, but we didn't talk about it for very long. But I
gotta make sure I don't get kicked
out. You know what, Badger or not, you don't look like you belong there. So you're
right.
gonna. I joke, obviously, but. No, so yeah, I mean something that Minnesota has shown to be good at is just the way that they swarm the Joker, and and they're doing a really good job too at just sort of like pushing him out of the paint, because as he likes to get downhill, and the way he does it a lot is a variety of different ways. Passing it, getting the ball back, and then sometimes just when he sees that opportunity, he'll sort of just dribble the ball and drive himself right to the guy in front of him, just to get those few extra feet where he can make a lot more happen. But teams seem to be sort of like shoving him back out to the top of the 3-point line, where where he has to make like a lot more difficult passes, and they're just not there. And then, it's I would say up and down you'll see other members of the Nuggets hold their own offensively, but against Minnesota, that was just one of those games where it was Joker was doing okay as a scorer, but you couldn't really say that about
Yeah,
very many other guys on the Nuggets. I feel like virtually everybody on the Timberwolves has Murray's number. He just like physically cannot get to his shot on through any like one-on-one situation with anybody on the T-Wolves. Which has been tough to watch as a Murray fan, during the playoffs, and then even in just this regular season game here. Um, I will say that I did kind of feel that Michael Porter Jr. was doing a decent job getting to the hole because
back
he certainly
cuts.
wasn't.
He loves
Well,
those
that
back
was a big
cuts.
part of it. But I kind of admire his effort of actually like trying to finish near the rim, as opposed to like settling for jump shots because those weren't really falling either for him super well. But yeah, I mean, you still see Jokic like whenever one option gets taken away, he will always try to exploit the next. And so these past two games, you've seen him actually really, really push his scoring abilities a little bit. And he's had pretty decent games, at least in the box score. And but yeah, it's almost like these 3 games in a row, which is kind of like a nice little triplet of data to work with the Nuggets, albeit it being 3 games in 4 days against tough opponents, and then also approximately 11 of those 12 quarters being without Aaron Gordon. Kind of tough for them, and not exactly the full picture. So keep that in mind. But yeah, you kind of see from like the first game versus the next two, Jokic like just really sort of took the reins as a scorer because they weren't. I mean, neither of those teams were giving him a triple double that night.
I want to let you have a chance to talk about East. I feel like we've talked a lot about out West. You live in an Eastern Conference city. I feel like we've kind of glazed over the Karl Anthony Towns injury. I feel like is he still out at least for somewhat extended period of time. And I will drop one little Western Conference nugget as it fell into my head as I realized it was breaking news as I was walking in the door here in the arena. De'Aaron Fox has been shut down by the Spurs as well with a broken pinky. I think he's having surgery on his pinky. But injuries, Karl Towns. Are there any other notable injuries out east that you feel can shape whether it's the draft or the upcoming playoffs?
Well, when you say Karl Towns, are you referring to Brunson's injury? I think you mean Jalen Brunson.
I
'Cause those-
probably have mixed that up. I probably need to put $1 in my name jar for that mix up. But I thought he got some sort of, if he was out for a game or two, but I not as serious as Brunson's then I guess.
Yeah, no, yeah. Brunson's sprained ankle, I think, is certainly going to make an impact on the Knicks, yeah, to some degree down the stretch. I think they honestly, I don't think it's going to make big enough of a change that they have to worry about their current seeding. I think they're going to stay in the 3 spot. I mean, Milwaukee might make a big run, but I think it's likely with them being 5 games up on Milwaukee in fourth that they're likely to hang out where they are, even if they sort of break even for a little bit here. I mean, hopefully Brunson can return soon enough to ramp back up and be healthy for the playoffs. I think that's going to be huge for them. I mean, obviously, as we all know, without Brunson, they're just I don't really know who's running that offense. I don't necessarily think that they can't win a game, but yeah, certainly not the team that
You need a floor general. Just like these guys, you need a floor general to kind of control the offense.
Yeah, no, I especially, there's always that you can say this about just about any team. There's like that one player that like that they can't lose, and for them, it would certainly be Brunson. So, yeah, hopefully he's back in time, soon. And I mean, you got me on the injured brigade now. I'm thinking about LeBron as well as I'm watching
That's
these.
right. That's right.
I know you're trying to get me back out east here, but yeah, as I'm watching these Mavs lose some pretty bad games here. I mean, let's see. last night they dropped one. I'm sorry. These Lakers. Tonight that they dropped one to the Bucks. It didn't really seem like they ever had control of that game. They recently lost to the Nets as well. Who, I don't know, what are they trying? Are they not trying? What the heck is going on there? But if they are trying, why? But yeah, I mean, we were given. It almost. I don't know if we can say Boston like truly like shook them up, but I think we were giving them a lot of credit for the defense and how that team was flowing, and cannot underestimate LeBron's role in that. Because otherwise, I kind of was joking to you. I was like, now the Lakers are going to look like the Mavs were like 6 years ago. It's like what are we looking at here? It's Luka running the show with a bunch of like, I mean, I guess you give Austin Reeves his credit, but like just a bunch of like middling to less than offensive guys. So definitely gonna be the Doncic show, especially as he dropped what 43 points tonight. I'd have to look that up, but anyway, so
Putting up SGA numbers.
Yeah. Give him the MVP.
Yeah. Any last remarks? They're slowly turning the lights out on me here, and there's less people dribbling basketball on the court, so I know they're gonna play some semi-sonic. You got a closing time here in a second.
Yeah, just curious to see if Minnesota can turn this into an end of season run like the Mavs perhaps did last year. I mean, different circumstances. The Mavs actually, took on a couple of players that really rounded out their roster well, versus Minnesota is sort of building from within. I realize 5 of these past 6 games that they've won have been against teams that are not going to be in the playoff picture and the playoff mix.
It's like the rest of the schedule.
Right. So I mean, obviously they're going to try to take advantage of that. So it's not like they're it's not like there's any knock on them if they win a bunch of games to close the season. Oh, but it was against bad teams, so kick them out. No, but I mean, I guess in a similar situation, well, I wouldn't say super similar because they're probably more of a lock for a top 6, but just zooming in on Detroit, trying to close their season as well, seeing where they end up. They could, reasonably end up 4, 5, or 6, which is crazy to think. In part because
we need to go back and review the over-under, because at least that one I saw they've got 36, so we got to check it off. We got to go through, and we need to have a review of our preseason over-unders just to check our work here and see who we still have a chance with or who's already kind of gone out. I think would be interesting to look at.
I like that. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that soon for you guys. But yeah, no, I mean that would be my other pointer out east is for who to zoom in on, just because I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting seeing them in the playoffs. I realize that they're going to have to go up against one of these higher seeds, but maybe if they got the Knicks, especially with Brunson that's ramping back up, Mitchell Robinson, who is he still going to be on a minutes restriction at that point? Maybe it'll be a good series.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Bobby, for the semi-last minute getting this done so we can at least have the atmosphere look here. Now I can take off the fade since there's no children running around. You can see the full backboard
in all its glory.
Yes,
look at that.
Indeed.
It's beautiful.
Well, now this is in all of its glory, as you can see. You're right underneath the stanchion. So.
Oh, don't look at my workout equipment there, folks.
We will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Till then.
Go Book It, bros.